I'm pretty sure you heard that before, that in hard economic times, for example during the high inflation, the rich get even more rich, building incredible amount of wealth, but on the flip side, the poor and even middle class struggle, they save less money for sure, and their financial situation gets worse. Look, actually, when you think about it, when it comes to difficult financial times, the gap between rich or wealthy or middle class, for example, grows even larger. But why is that exactly? Well, before we're gonna understand the answer to this question, let's quickly look at some statistics and warning. This can actually make some of you pretty upset. Now, with all that being said, no worries, I won't leave you hanging, because little later in this video I'm gonna share with you how you can prosper better during the inflation too. So before we jump to it, just a quick disclaimer. This video is not a financial advice. I'm just simply sharing my opinion from my personal experience. However, you are solely responsible for your own financial situation. Now let's just take a quick look at some of these crazy statistics. In 1980, for example, the median personal income was just over $25,000, and according to some statistics, right now is over $40,000, which is over 62% gain only. However, there are also some other statistics that say that between 1980 and 2022 there was 135% gain of income. So let's go with this higher number, and I'm gonna show you why even that amount is not enough. You see, in 1980, for example, the average medium house value was $47,200. In 2022 that was $329,000, which is actually 697% increase. Then when you look at the cars, in 1980 it was $7,500, but in 2022 was over $48,000, which is again over 640% increase. Now let's look at fast food restaurants. In 1980, the average meal for family was about $10 or so, and that's for family of 4. However, now in 2024, that's about $60, which is pretty much 6 times the amount. The price for 1 gallon of gas for the car was $1.22. Now is at $3.68, which is 200% increase. And when we look at prices of college tuition, it gets even more crazy, because on average annually this is 900% price increase, and that's literally crazy. So as you could see, even with this 135% salary increase, this doesn't really do the justice compared to how much money we have to spend extra. So with all this, it's very clear to see why a lot of us struggle to make the ends meet, and even with both spouses working or somebody working 2 jobs, it's still very difficult to save money, for example. So now first, let's answer this very important question, and that is why rich grow their portfolios even larger during the inflation period. You see, the main difference between the middle class, for example, and wealthy is that the wealthy make most of their revenue from stocks or from mutual funds portfolios and dividends and etc. So since they own the shares of the companies that we purchase the stuff from, whether it's food, entertainment, gas, it doesn't really matter what it is, but basically because they own shares for everything pretty much, and during the inflation the prices go up, so do the prices of their shares, basically meaning their portfolios grow larger too. So their revenue shoots up, but in the meantime, since the middle class struggles, and the gap between these two financial economic groups actually is increasing in the size as well. So you see, that was just the first reason why that gap is increasing between the two, but there is actually second and very huge reason too, and it comes to how we actually pay the taxes. Now for most W-2 employees, basically for anyone working certain amount of hours per week and receiving weekly or bi-weekly salary, we have kind of progressive tax, if you will, and that means if our salary is very low, we pay less taxes. However, if our salary increases, so do the taxes. So let me just show you just few quick numbers. If you make up to $11,600, the federal tax rate is only 10%. From $11,601 up to $47,150, there is 12% tax. Then from $47,151 up to $100,525, there is 22% rate. And the taxes can go even higher with higher earned income, and that's up to total of 37%. Now keep in mind, these are only federal taxes, because we still have to pay the state tax, at least in the states that are required to pay it, like I live in New York, for example. Now this is kind of progressive progressive income tax, if you will. So that doesn't automatically mean that if you make $100,526, you have to pay 24% from the entire amount, because your first $11,600 are gonna be taxed at 10%. The next $35,549 will be taxed at 12%, basically the gap between the two. The next $53,375 will be taxed at 22%, that's the gap between these two, and so on and so forth. However, this tax is definitely not favorable, and it still could be up to 37% in these higher brackets. And here's where the tax code for the wealthy is better too, because like I've mentioned before, they mostly make the money from the investments, and for the most part, especially the long-term investments, could be taxed up to 20% only. Yes, even if you make $5 million, for example, it's still gonna be up to 20% for the long-term investments at least, and in some situations with good tax deductions, these taxes could be as low as 10%, or even zero. Now I know it kind of feels like it's not fair, however I think instead of complaining and crying about it, we can actually start working on our financial circumstances, so maybe after a while we can start switching to the other side too, and all you really need for that is just different mindset. The good news is you can start investing your money too, and I'm not talking about investing ton of money or investing in some stupid get rich quick scheme. I'm talking about start investing even small money in some proven stocks or good index 500 mutual funds, for example. So next time maybe, instead of buying this brand new iPhone 16, perhaps invest this money in the Apple stock, then at least you're gonna own a couple of shares of Apple and start growing your wealth, or instead of buying Starbucks coffee for like $40 a month, again for this $480 annually, buy some shares from the Starbucks company. So basically, instead of just being consumer, become a stock shareholder, so then you will actually profit from this company's products being sold. See? Just a simple mindset shift. Now for those of you who really don't like stocks or maybe are afraid of investing, no worries, I have some solution too. So if you don't want to invest in stocks but you still want to beat the inflation, or at least get close to beating the inflation so you won't lose money, I would suggest first get 2 or 3 good credit cards, and I'm talking about the credit cards with no annual fees, with 2 to 3% cashback bonus, and no, I'm not talking about travel rewards cards or fly miles benefits and etc. We're talking about the actual cash rewards, because we don't want to spend any extra money and we want some cash going back to us. Then once you get these cards, you will pretty much do all the shopping on these cards. So instead of paying cash or debit card, every single purchase will be on these cards, and that might even include some subscription services and etc. But here is the important part. You will buy whatever you buy normally and literally nothing else. Basically, you will treat these cards as transaction tool, and same way as you would be paying by cash. Now assuming you don't pay any interest on the credit cards and your cards are paid in full every month, because that's the only way it can work actually, you will then sometimes redeem this 2 to 3% rewards, and instead of putting this money back to your regular checking or savings account, I would suggest to open some nice high-yield savings account, because these accounts, at least for now, pay basically between 4 and 5% annual interest rate, so your money can kind of work for itself and grow some nice interest. And I would definitely deposit all these rewards that you're getting into this high-yield savings account, plus whatever additional money you can save. So now you have 2% from the rewards, and you're earning at least 4% on the high savings account. By the way, these rates are variable, so yes, they can change, but at least you're getting closer to beating the annual inflation. So basically, you're gonna start the process of finally winning financially. Now, personally, I use Capital One high savings account, and it works really nice for me, so you might wanna check this video out. So good luck with your financial ventures, and as always, thank you for watching.